Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Dear students of grade 7 at the Innovators International Academy, today, inshallah, Sabi', we are going to continue our reading lesson. Yesterday, we have started reading our story, The Man at the Fountain, and we said that in that story, we have a boy. His name is Philippe. Philippe was in the square, or Saha. He was meeting his cousin who sells newspapers in the square. We said that while Philip was walking in the square, he saw a thief. And also, we said that he knew that this man was a thief because his picture was in the newspapers that his cousin sells. Now, today, inshallah, Sabi', we are going to continue with our paragraphs and we are reading from the student book, page 18. I want you, Sabi', to look for the paragraph that starts with nobody. رح نبدأ بفقرتنا اللي أول كلمة منها لحتى تكوني عارفيتها. أول كلمة منها nobody. Let's read together. Nobody was taking any notice of the thief, but Philippe did not stop watching him. He was difficult to recognize. He did not look exactly like his picture because he was in disguise, but Philippe knew it was him. The police were looking for this man all over the city, and now here he was, just a few meters from the newspaper stand. So nobody was taking any notice of the thief. To take some notice أو to take any notice of somebody سابع بمعنى إنه ما حدا انتبه له أو ما حدا شافه أو عرف إنه هو موجود. So nobody was taking any notice of the thief, but Philip did not stop watching him. وهنا سابع watching بمعنى يراقب. So he did not stop watching him. And here we are talking about the thief. So Philippe did not stop watching the thief. He was difficult to recognize. He did not look exactly like his pictures. Now here we have Sabi' the pronouns he. He was difficult to recognize. He did not look exactly. Here Sabi' we are talking about the thief. So the pronouns he in both times refer to the thief. The thief was difficult to recognize. Recognize سابع means to know بمعنى كان من الصعب معرفته أو كان من الصعب إدراك شخصيته بمعنى إنه كان من الصعب التعرف عليه. So he was difficult to recognize. كان من الصعب إنه نتعرف على اللص and he did not look exactly like the pictures بمعنى إنه ما كان شكله بالضبط مثل شكله بالصور الموجودة بالصحف. Why سابع? Why did he look different from his pictures? Because he was in disguise. Now disguise سابع means to wear something in order to look different. إنه نكون لابسين شيء بهدف إنه نظهر بشكل مختلف بمعنى التنكر. So again سابع. The thief did not look exactly like his pictures. ما كان شكله مثل شكله بالصور and he was difficult to recognize because he was in disguise لأنه كان متنكر. But Philippe knew it was him. Philippe knew that this man was the thief whose picture was in the newspaper. The police were looking for the man all over the city. Now looking for سابع means searching بمعنى يبحث. So the police were looking for the man بمعنى إنهم كانوا بيبحثوا عنه all over the city and now here he was just a few meters from the newspaper stand. Okay, let's move to the next paragraph. Okay, let's start reading together. He was standing at the fountain in the middle of the square. He was almost hidden by a group of tourists with clicking cameras. They chatted and laughed as they took their photos. The square was famous for the fountain. Travelers of the city always took photos of the fountain with its beautiful statues and cascades of tinkling water. It was made from white marble that glistened like Arctic ice. In the four corners were huge leaping fish. Water spurted from their gaping mouths and splashed into the pool. In the center of the pool, two powerful galloping horses were pulling a magnificent chariot that was driven by a warrior of ancient times. طيب بدي إياكِ تكوني عارفة سابع إنه في عندي هون بهاي الباراجراف شوية تفصيل عن وصف الfountain the description of the fountain فأنا في عندي هون وصف لهاي النافورة اللي موجودة بوسط الساحة اللي كان فيليب موجود فيها فإحنا بدنا نقرأ وبدنا نبين شوية معاني رح تشوفي إنه في عندي كتير كلمات جديدة لكن اللي مطلوب منك فقط مجموعة من المعاني اللي رح نعتبرها مهمة واللي رح نحدد لك إياها بعدين. Okay, so he was standing at the fountain in the middle of the square. He was almost hidden by the group of tourists. هنا إحنا بنحكي سابع we're talking about the thief. The thief was standing at the fountain and the thief was almost hidden. Almost hidden بمعنى إنه هو كان مخفي. كيف كان مخفي سابع؟ By a group of tourists with clicking cameras بمعنى إنه هو كان مخفي ما بين السياح. tourist معناها سياح سابع. Okay. They chatted and laughed as they took their photos. And here we have the pronouns they وهنا they both سابع they refer to the tourist بمعنى the tourist السياح chatted and laughed as they took their photos. Chatted means that they were talking to each other. Okay. The square was famous for the fountain بمعنى إنه الساحة كانت مشهورة بوجود هاي النافورة فيها. Travelers to the city always took photos of the fountain with its beautiful statues. statue سابع means تماثيل and cascades بمعنى الشلالات الصغيرة. So the fountain was famous for having the beautiful statues and cascades. كانت الساحة مشهورة بوجود النافورة والنافورة كانت مشهورة بالتماثيل والشلالات الصغيرة اللي موجودة فيها. Okay. It was made from white marble and here it سابع refers to the fountain. هاي الفاونتن أو هاي النافورة it was made كانت مصنوعة from white marble من الرخام الأبيض. marble معناها رخام. That glistened like Arctic ice. Glistened سابع معناها اللي هي لمعت. So it was brightened like Arctic ice. بمعنى إنه كانت مصنوعة من الرخام الأبيض اللي كان بيلمع وكأنه زي الثلج أو الجليد. In the four corners were huge leaping fish. In the four corners بالزوايا الأربعة هاي النافورة there were huge leaping fish. Leaping fish means jumping fish. بمعنى إنه بالزوايا الأربعة كان في عندي أسماك أو أربع أسماك قافزة وهون إحنا بنحكي سابع عن تماثيل بمعنى إنه أنا بالزوايا الأربعة للفاونتنز في عندي تماثيل أو أربع تماثيل على شكل أسماك قافزة. So we have in the four corners a huge leaping fish. Water spurted from their gaping mouth. Gaping means wide open. So we have fish سابع and we have water that spurted out of their mouth. Spurted بمعنى إنه انطلقت المياه أو إنه المي بتخرج من أفواههم. And here we describe the mouth as being gaping. Gaping حكينا معناها wide open. بمعنى إنه هاي التماثيل كانت لأسماك أفواهها مفتوحة وكانت بتخرج من أفواهها المياه. So they spurted أو the water spurted from their gaping mouth and splashed into the pool. In the center of the pool, two powerful galloping horses. So we have حكينا we have the four corners على الزوايا we have statues of fish بمعنى على الزوايا كان في عندي تماثيل لأسماك وبالنص كان في عندي statues of horses تماثيل على شكل أحصنة. Now these horses we have two تنين powerful galloping horses. Powerful قوي galloping سابع بمعنى that they are running fast، يعني كانت التماثيل على شكل أحصنة تركض بسرعة أو إنها راكضة. They were pulling a magnificent chariot. Magnificent سابع بمعنى very big and chariot بمعنى عربة. فهدول الأحصنة التنين كانوا بيجروا وراءهم عربة كبيرة that was driven by a warrior. That chariot هاي العربة كان اللي بيقودها هو مين؟ A warrior بمعنى a fighter مقاتل of the ancient times, and ancient means old times. بمعنى إنه أنا كان في عندي حصانين، هدول الحصانين بجروا وراءهم عربة، هاي العربة بيقودها مقاتل من الزمن القديم أو الوقت القديم. Okay, let's move to the next paragraph. Before moving to the paragraph, we have the words galloping اللي حكينا معناها running fast. We have leaping اللي حكينا معناها jumping and gaping. شو فيها السابع عندك بالفقرات؟ gaping mouth, galloping horses. الكلمات هاي مع إنها كانت بتخلص ب ing سابع إلا إنه كلياتها كانت عبارة عن adjectives، بمعنى إني أنا استخدمتهم لحتى أوصف nouns. يعني هون في عندي gaping mouths، كنت أنا بوصف الأفواه بإنها مفتوحة بشدة. galloping horses وصفت الأحصنة بإنه هي تركض بسرعة. بمعنى سابع اللي بدي أوصل لك إياه إنه أحيانا الكلمات يلي بتخلص ب ing ما بتكون أفعال زي ما إحنا متعودين. ممكن الكلمات اللي بتخلص ب ing تكون adjectives بتوصف لي الناونز، وهذا اللي رح يمر معك بدرس الفوكابيولاري. Okay, let's move to the next paragraph, and here we move to student book page 19. هيك بنكون خلصنا page 18 وانتقلنا ل page 19. Let's read the paragraph together. The thief was mingling with the tourists who were throwing seeds to the pigeons and photographing the elegant buildings around the square. Philippe thought about getting closer. He took a few steps forward. Hey, Philippe heard his cousin's voice. Aren't we going to the match? I'll finish here soon. Okay, so the thief was mingling with the tourist. Mingling سابع means that he was mixing with the tourist. حكينا إنه هو كان بتخفى بيناتهم، يعني إنه كان بيختلط بيناتهم حتى ما يبين بين الناس أو ما يبين لفيليب. So the thief was mingling with the tourists who were throwing seeds to the pigeons. هدول السياح they were throwing seeds يعني بيرموا حبوب to the pigeons. Pigeons مرت معنا بالدرس الماضي بمعنى حمام. And photographing the elegant buildings. Elegant بمعنى amazing buildings بمعنى سابع المباني الفخمة. Around the square. هاي المباني الفخمة كانت حول الساحة. So again, the thief was mixing with the tourists. كان بيختلط بيناتهم. The tourists were throwing seeds to the pigeons. بيرموا حبوب للحمام. And they were photographing the elegant buildings. كانوا بيصوروا المباني الفخمة حول الساحة. Philippe thought about getting closer. Closer سابع بمعنى أقرب. يعني فيليب فكر بأنه يقترب أكثر and he took a few steps forward. بمعنى أنه خطى مجموعة خطوات أو خطوات قليلة. forward معناها للأمام. فهو خطى خطوات للأمام حتى يقترب من اللص. Okay. Hey, Philippe heard his cousin's voice. So his cousin called on him. Aren't we going to the match? I'll finish here soon. So his cousin called on him in order to remind him that they were going to the match أو إنهم كانوا رح يروحوا على مباراة. Okay, next paragraph. Let's read together. Philippe nodded and looked back at the man who was sliding a small camera from his pocket. He took several photos of the square. While Philippe was watching, he realized that one building particularly interested the thief. It had 6 white columns at the front, Broad steps led up to the massive wooden doors, and a blue and gold flag was flying above the vast entrance. It was certainly a beautiful building and a good one to photograph. It used to belong to a duke, now it was the city bank. So Philip nodded and looked back at the man. Nodded سابع بمعنى that he moved his head up and down. يعني سابع إنه أشر براسه إنه هو موافق with his cousin. So he nodded and he looked back at the man, and here we are talking about the thief who was sliding a small camera from his pocket. كان بياخد he was taking a small camera from his pocket من جيبته. He took several photos of the square. several سابع مرت معي بمعنى many of العديد من. So the thief took several photos of the square. التقط اللص مجموعة صور للساحة. While Philippe was watching, he realized that one building particularly interested the thief. Realize سابع means that he recognized أو he knew بمعنى إنه أدرك أو عرف. So Philippe was watching كان بيراقب, and he realized عرف that one building مبنى محدد particularly interested the thief. Interested means that it's grabbed his attention بمعنى إنه كان في مبنى محدد لفت انتباه أو كان اللص مهتم فيه بشدة. Now that building في عندي هون مس وصف لإله. It had 6 white columns. had المبنى اللي كان اللص مهتم فيه أو مهتم بإنه ياخد صور إله. It had 6 white columns بمعنى كان إله 6 عمدان بيض at the front من الجهة الأمامية. And it had broad steps. broad steps بمعنى درج واسع that led up to the massive wooden doors. كان هذا الدرج بيقود لأبواب. هاي الأبواب كبيرة massive and wooden خشبية. And a blue and gold flag was flying above the vast entrance. كان في عندي flag بمعنى علم, and that flag was blue and gold, and it was flying above the vast entrance. entrance سابع بمعنى مدخل, وفي عندي هنا above بمعنى فوق. يعني إنه هذا العلم كان بيرفرف أو بيطير فوق المدخل الكبير, مدخل المبنى اللي إحنا بنوصفه. It was certainly a beautiful building and a good one to photograph. بمعنى إنه هذا المبنى كان مناسب أو جميل لدرجة إنه إحنا ناخد صور لإله. It used to belong to a duke. كان هذا المبنى بالقديم بنتمي لديوك. ديوك سابع أو اللي هو الدوق هو عبارة عن شخص كان له مهمة أو كان له مكانة بالدولة أو بالكنيسة. فكان هذا المبنى بينتمي لهذا الشخص, لكن الآن it was the city bank. هلأ بالوقت الحاضر بطل عندي إنه مكان بينتمي لهذا الشخص, وإنما صار بنك بمعنى إنه صار مصرف للمدينة. So because we are talking about the thief, now we know that the thief wanted to steal the bank. كان اللص بيحاول إنه يسرقه أو يخطط لسرقته. Let's move to the last paragraph. Philippe frowned and stared harder at the man. Just then, the group of tourists hurried away toward their bus. Startled, startled pigeons took off in a cloud of gray. The thief was suddenly alone. As if he felt Philippe's eyes on him, the man turned towards the fountain. An ice cream seller pushed his cart across the square and stopped in front of the fountain. Philippe could no longer see the man. When the ice cream seller moved on, the man was gone. Philippe frowned again. Perhaps he knew I was watching him, he thought. Just then, Philippe spotted a movement among the trees at the edge of the square. The thief was darting towards the main street that led away from the square. It was that moment, it was at that moment that Philippe decided to follow him. So Philippe frowned and stared harder at the man. Frowned سابع بمعنى إنه هو عبس. Philippe frowned and stared معناها إنه حدق أو نظر بشدة at the man. Just then the group of tourists hurried away toward their bus. Startled pigeon took off in a cloud of gray. Startled pigeon يعني the pigeons that moved suddenly إنهم تحركوا الحمام هاد تحرك بسرعة and took off means سابع to flew or they went away. So the pigeons went away in a sudden movement تحركوا بحركة مفاجئة and the thief was suddenly alone بمعنى the tourist gone كان السياح راحوا لباصاتهم and the pigeon flew away الحمام طار وبالتالي صار الحرامي مكشوف أو صار اللص مكشوف ما في حدا حواليه. As if he felt Philippe's eyes on him, the man turned towards the fountain. بمعنى لما حس the thief that Philippe is watching him, he turned towards the fountain. An ice cream seller pushed his cart across the square and stopped in front of the fountain. Philippe could no longer see the man. So the man disappeared and Philippe couldn't see him. When the ice cream seller moved on, the man was gone. لما راح بائع الآيس كريم, the man was gone يعني he disappeared. And here we are talking by saying the man, we're talking about the thief. Okay. Philippe frowned again. Perhaps he knew I was watching him, he thought. Thought is the past of think, فكر. Just then, Philippe spotted a movement. Spotted سابع means noticed. لاحظ بهاي الفترة أو بهذا الوقت فيليب that there is a movement كان في عندي حركة among the trees at the edge of the square بمعنى لاحظ وجود حركة داخل الأشجار أو بين الأشجار في حافة على حافة الساحة. The thief was darting towards the main street. Darting يعني he was going fast to the main street. كان اللص بتحرك أو بيذهب بسرعة أو بركض بسرعة للشارع الرئيسي that led away from the square اللي كان ببعده عن الساحة. It was that moment that Philippe decided to follow him. Follow سابع means to go after him يعني إنه قرر إنه يتبعه ويروح وراه. طبعا القصة هون سابع عنا نهايتها مفتوحة، رح يترك لي المجال إني أنا أفكر بنهاية مناسبة للقصة، ورح نكمل النهاية إلها بدرس الرايتنج. يعني لما نوصل للرايتنج إن شاء الله رح نكتب إحنا نهاية للقصة باللي بنشوفه مناسب وحسب خيالنا. طيب before ending the class قبل ما أنهي الحصة سابع we have to know some things about the story. دائما سابع لما أقرأ قصة لازم يكون في عندي عناصر معينة رح أشرح لك عن عنصرين منهم. هدول العناصر سابع لازم يكونوا مكتوبين بدفترنا. يعني وانت بتحضر الفيديو بتفتحي دفترك الإكسرسايز وبتكتبي معي عن عناصر القصة. دائما سابع when we read a story the story always has characters and settings. لازم هاي القصة يكون فيها characters ويكون فيها setting. خلينا نعرف شو يعني هدول الكلمتين. Now when we say characters the characters are people in the story. هم الناس اللي موجودين بالقصة. يعني سابع القصة اللي قرأتها كان فيها مجموعة ناس. هدول الناس مثلا we have Philip. Philip was a main character بمعنى إنه فيليب كان هو شخصية. He was a character شخصية بالقصة and he was main character بمعنى شخصية أساسية. كمان مرة سابع in the stories usually we have characters في عنا شخصيات. هاي الشخصيات معناها people in the story. أي شخص كان موجود بالقصة هو عبارة عن character. خلينا نعدد الكاركترز اللي كانت موجودة عندي بالقصة. كان في عندي مس فيليب اللي كان شخصية رئيسية يعني بمعنى إنه هو أكتر واحد ظهر بالقصة وأكتر حدا كان مؤثر بالقصة. مين كمان عنا كان فيه؟ We had Philip's cousin who was selling newspapers in the square. We also have the thief and we have the tourists السياح. هدول كلياتهم بنسميهم characters أو شخصيات. نيجي للsetting. setting سابع is the place and the time of the story، يعني إيش هو المكان والزمان اللي صارت فيه أحداث القصة. إحنا بنعرف إنه البليس رح يكون عندي the square، كل أحداث القصة صارت عندي بالساحة at the square. والتايم كان موجود عندي بالجملة إنه it was a hot afternoon، معناته the time of the story is in the afternoon. ففي عندي لما نحكي عن السيتنج معناته لازم أدور عن ال place and the time of the story، عن وقت ومكان اللي صارت فيه أحداث القصة. So that was the end of our class today سابع. Thank you for watching.